Thank you so much, Nina, and thank you to everyone who's here today with Jewish National Fund. You guys really are at the forefront of everything that we do here in Israel. So I am going to present to you guys today very briefly the work that we have started doing to provide emergency support for Ukrainian refugees coming into specifically the Negev right now. So 3 weeks ago, again, this is something that is ongoing and changing daily, but we identified the need to assist refugees with employment opportunities. We know that's not the first thing they're going to be thinking about, but we also knew that we had to be ready to go and prepare a program for when they would be prepared to talk about employment, because we knew that it was something that would happen very, very fast. So 3 weeks ago, we crafted a program. We got the green light from JNF USA, because you guys are always ready to help and ready to be really at the forefront of everything that is going on here in Israel. And the first thing that we did was we hired a program coordinator. This is someone who is mapping the needs of the immigrants, or not the immigrants, the refugees who are coming in. And I want to just take a minute to talk about her, just because she is very special herself. Her name is Anat. She was born in Israel, in Ashkelon. She and her family moved back to Ukraine, which is where her family is from. And she herself is a refugee who on March 9th found herself in Ashkelon after not understanding why her life was turned upside down. And through our really close work with the city of Beersheba, we found her very quickly, and we found a woman who is so motivated to do something good in the face of all of this horrible, terrible things that are happening right now. And I think it's really also her way to help deal with her own trauma and to help other people to deal with their trauma. So she has jumped right in doing this work. Her first few days were literally spent sitting at the Leonardo Hotel here in Beersheba, which is being used to house refugees, and just hearing their stories and trying to understand who these people are, what sort of situation they're coming in. Even the government here doesn't have a full handle on exactly what's going on, where people are going. There's a lot of internal movement. And obviously the first thing that is needing to be taken care of are their first initial needs: shelter, food, clothes, all of those things. So we're also being very respectful of that and working with the local authorities to make sure that these people are receiving the assistance that they need in those areas. And at the same time, again, trying to keep our finger on the pulse of what exactly the employment needs are of this group coming in. I have to tell you guys that the refugees that we are seeing right now are very, very, very skilled. They have a lot to contribute to the Negev, and hopefully eventually to the north as well, to the Galilee. We really are very, very lucky to be receiving them, even under such terrible circumstances. So the second thing that we did after we hired Anat, the program coordinator, is that we started recruiting Negev businesses who are ready to hire immigrants or refugees today. And we've recruited over 100 Negev businesses who are prepared to do so. And to also make special adjustments to the needs of these particular people coming in. So currently we have over 2,000 jobs mapped and ready to be filled at these companies. Last week, we also held a regional conference with the Minister of Aliyah and Integration, Pnina Shata. She came together with the employers in order to have a half-day conference of let's talk about the nitty-gritty. Let's talk about the needs that this particular population is going to have. And also, how are we going to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes that were made with the large wave of immigration from the former Soviet Union in the 90s. We see a lot of people who came very skilled, very educated, who in order to pay the bills and to get themselves back up on their feet started working simple jobs, because we all have to make money somehow. And then they stayed in those simple jobs. And so Israel really missed out on a lot of really highly skilled, highly educated people. And unfortunately, we see a lot of people, my friends' parents' generation here in Israel, who are, who their full potential really was never fulfilled. And, who are obviously dealing with the effects of that into their retirement age by not having any sort of retirement funds, not having any sort of savings, and having to live from hand to pocket. And so we really want to make sure that we are not going to be repeating those same mistakes. And I feel like at that conference, it was very, very clear to everyone that everyone has to work together in order to make sure that the services that we are providing and the job opportunities that we're giving are going to be high quality job opportunities. So that was the official kickoff of this program. The name of the program currently is Olim to the Negev. Again, we're working right now in the Negev because thank God there's a really, really strong infrastructure of immigrant integration down here. And so this is a wonderful place to do a pilot program. We're very, very happy to have really great working relationships with all the municipalities in this area. A lot thanks to the work of JNF and the fact that we can say that we are part of the JNF family. That is, I don't know if, I'm sure you guys know this, I'm preaching to the choir, but really the good name of JNF goes with us everywhere and opens a lot of doors. So again, we're really working on making this program function here in the South. Hopefully we'll be able to replicate it into other areas as well. Starting next week, we are going to start with our individual career counseling sessions for these refugees. These are going to be sessions that are going to take each refugee, meet with them individually between 3 to 8 times, however many times they need, and to help them be placed into an appropriate job. I want to take a step back too and maybe talk about the people who are coming in. You know, we're seeing something like 10,000 new refugees coming into Israel monthly right now. These are refugees that are coming in from Ukraine, but we're also seeing an increased number of refugees coming in from Russia. The experts know, people know that there is an iron curtain coming down on Russia and anti-Semitism is on the rise. And so we're seeing lots of people who are affected by this war who are not necessarily in the middle of the war in Ukraine, but who are definitely getting out while they can. And it's estimated that over the next 2 years, we're going to see something like 300,000 new immigrants or refugees coming in from Russia and Ukraine. And we really need to be prepared to support them in every way that we can. Again, we are really working on basing ourselves right now. That's the basic skeleton of the program that we're providing so far. We have enough funding for the first 3 months of the program, which is, again, an emergency program to get us started. And we're definitely hoping to continue pushing it on farther. While I think all of us would love for this war to end tomorrow, I think that the reality that we all know, unfortunately, is that it's probably not going to, and we're really going to need to continue taking care of the needs of these refugees for the next months and years to come. So again, we're working down here in the South every day around the clock, and the idea is that once we get the program more based with a little bit more feet on the ground, and we understand even better the needs of the refugees, we really do want to replicate this program also in Israel's north, because we know that obviously there's a need everywhere in the country. And not only is it a need, I think I said it before, we're really looking at this as an opportunity to bring amazing people to come into the Negev, into the Galilee, because they need a place to live and we need really awesome people like them to be here with us as well. That's my as short as I can make it, briefing. I would love to, Nina, maybe we can open the floor to some questions and see if people want to ask a little bit more about the program.
Yes, thank you, Megan. It's an awesome program and you're doing a wonderful, wonderful job. Let's talk about the professional backgrounds of the Olim that are coming in now. I mean, we're talking about skilled people, but give us a little bit more detail on their professions.
Absolutely. So, you know, we weren't surprised when we saw a lot of engineers and logistics professionals coming in. Logistics is one of Ukraine's strongest fields. And so we're seeing a lot of people coming in from those areas. There are quite a few doctors and healthcare professionals. lawyers, accountants. There's one airplane engineer who's in, a lot of people from the high-tech world. So you really are seeing people from a wide range of professions. I will say one thing, a lot of these professions in Israel require licensing. And so we are currently, after the conference that we had last week, we are actively working with the Ministry of the Aliyah and Integration and the Ministry of Economy to expedite their licensing processes here, so that, because that was another big issue with the immigration of the 90s, is that people's licenses were not transferred, or they were transferred to a lower level. And so we're really working also on the individual level, but also on the government and the bureaucratic level, in order to try and cut as much red tape as possible to get these people ready to work as fast as we can.
That's awesome, because I know most of us probably know there's a definite shortage of doctors in Israel right now, and that was one of the obstacles of getting them licensed. So I'm happy to hear you're working on that. So, like, of the 2,000 plus jobs that you currently have in the Lauder Employment Center database, what's the range of these opportunities? And what do you feel is more in demand for job options for these new immigrants?
Wow, it's an amazing question. We have everything. I'm not exaggerating when I say that there's the entire gauntlet of job opportunities. We're talking from grocery stores and hotels and people who need immediate, simple, unskilled labor, to high-tech firms who are in need of computer programmers. Israel has is lacking something like 16,000 engineers. So we see lots of people saying, please bring us engineers. That's probably of all of the available jobs, that's probably the hottest field that we're seeing and the biggest demand. We see, again, the hospital here in Beersheba. We have Adi Negev is also looking to try and pull people out of this pool of potential workers. It's really a little bit of everything. Yeah, they throw a name out there, a type of profession, and I think we probably have it.
Good. Well, good. Well, one of the questions too that's just come up is, how are they going to manage the language gaps for the refugees that can function in these various jobs that are open?
Absolutely. So listen, that's one of the first things that we had to consider. When we had this panel discussion with different representatives from the different fields coming in, we asked them this question: how are you willing to deal with people who don't speak the same language, don't speak Hebrew, maybe not the same language, but they don't speak Hebrew? How are we going to deal with that issue? The high-tech sector said, you know what, if they have even just a little bit of English, or we have someone in our office who speaks Russian or Ukrainian, we'll take them. If they fit the job opportunity, we will take them. We will figure out how to then supplement them later on with Hebrew learning skills, because again, we need to help these people to integrate also into Israeli society while they're going through and making sure that they're putting bread on the table. In some other industries, if we're looking more in the factory and the industrial sector, a lot of cities here in Israel have kind of industrial areas, and the people who are in charge of these different companies in these areas are willing to work with the Ministry of Aliyah and Integration to bring in the Hebrew language classes to these areas, to provide them at flexible hours, and to also make sure that they have a buddy at the job. They said, if we have someone who speaks Russian or Ukrainian and there's someone who wants to come work with us, we will pair them with another worker who speaks their language, who can help them integrate. People are so willing to help right now, and it's very heartwarming.
Right. That's awesome, because that is definitely a question that many have asked, and I'm glad that it's being dealt with. That's awesome. Another question came in, is that questioning, is there a network that's established to gather in-kind donations of Negev appropriate clothing and supplies? The desert states would be able to provide a lot.
You guys are amazing. So that's not, unfortunately, that's not our field of expertise. I do know that the municipality here in Beersheba is taking lots of donations. We've actually given our bomb shelter here at the Lauder Center. Thank God we're not having to use it right now, but they're using it as a storage space for children's games and sheets and towels and kitchen supplies. So there are lots of local initiatives that are popping up to make sure that people get these donations and they get passed out to people appropriately. I do think when it comes to clothing, I think it's been kind of the general consensus that they're trying to give new clothing just because these people are already, they're coming here with one bag. Like, let's try to give them something new if we can, so that they can feel one less thing to make them feel the heaviness of what they've been going through.
Right, that makes sense. And how are we housing all these refugees?
So the government is providing them with housing in hotels. So if any of you have been to Beersheba and you've stayed at the Leonardo Hotel, it has been converted into a place to happily house these refugees. Absorption centers are being used. And I'll be honest, a lot of people are opening their homes. These are people who are friends or distant relatives of people coming from Ukraine, and they're housing them and making sure that they have a place to stay. So that's the immediate, again, that's not necessarily our field, but those are the immediate responses to the housing needs.
And are whole families or mothers and children immigrating? And if so, how will the children be schooled?
Really good questions. We're noticing, I'm looking down at my numbers sheet because I just got yesterday a report of the number breakdown of people coming into Israel from Ukraine. Last month, there were exactly 12,244, a third of them children under the age of 20. And then the vast majority are women of working age in Israel being 18 to 65-ish. Women who have left their husbands, their brothers, their fathers back in Ukraine and have come with the children. Women who are dealing with lots of trauma and dealing with their kids and also having to figure out how to fit in a job to these places too. The children are going to be, I can say, thank God, because I worked in this field for 5 years before I came to the Lauder Center, the children are going to receive excellent integration services. That is something that Israel knows how to do very well, especially down here in the Negev. We are very, very fortunate to have such a great system of integration services to help the children learn Hebrew, to help them feel comfortable in school, to help give them the time to acclimate before they start throwing them into tests and making sure they're reaching benchmarks and things. So thank God the education system here is very well equipped to adapt and to integrate these children coming in.